Hi everyone, in this lecture we are going to create a correct answer function and incorrect answer function. Alright, so we know by now we know what the user has clicked on. Alright, so let's go ahead and let's implement some logic based on that. So we are going to say if the answer equals questions. Now we want to evaluate the user's answer against the correct answer, that the correct answer's key value pair inside the object, which is an item of an array of questions. Right? So right away when I write these questions, we have access to this object which is inside this array. So inside this object we have a question that is a string, question image string. Everything is basically a string. But what is inside this entire list that is really useful for us? It is the correct answer. But before going to the correct answer, we should know what is the answer that the user is currently working on. What is the question that the user is currently working on? So for example, if the question is question number 5, we need to check this answer and guess against the correct answer for the question number 5. So before even accessing that array, we need to know what is the active question that the user is actively trying to answer. So after we have found out the index of that question, from there we are going to grab our correct answer. So if the answer that we pass in inside this parameter that is going to be passed in instead of this parameter, which is going to come from right here, which we know how we got it, if that is if that is equal to the correct answer for that specific question, we want to grab our score and we want to increment it by 1. All right, now we have created the score, and the initial value for the score is 0. This is the where is the score? I don't think we have created it. So let's go ahead and let's create it down here. So let's say let's score be equal to 0. Now this score is the score that we are going to show when all the questions are done. So first off, we want to increment that score because the score has a value of 0. When the user answers one question correctly, the score is going to be 1. This is how we add it behind the scenes, BTS. All right, and the next thing that I want to do here is I want to call two functions here. So the first function is going to be answer is correct. I want to call in this function. If the answer is correct, we are going to call the answer is correct function. Else we are going to, what is this? Else we are going to call the answer is incorrect function. All right, so we know that we should call this function. So why do we want to call these functions? Because each of these functions is responsible for providing this box with a different color. So answer is correct is going to change the background of that box to green, and answer is incorrect is going to change the background of that box to red. So now let's go ahead and let's say answer is correct function. Let's create this function. Let's say function answer is correct. Answer is correct. All right, so what do we want to do? We want to grab that element. So we are going to say document dot get element by ID, and I'm going to tell you why. Get element by ID, and in here I'm going to pass in the active question. Dot style dot background color. Where is the background color? And let's change it to very solid green. So why dot get element by ID? If you remember correctly, this is where we created those 10 boxes. They have a class of progress box, which we styled in CSS, which should be right here. This is that. And they have an ID, which is a number. Now, the number of that ID starts from 0, goes all the way to question index less than the last question or equal to it, and then it increments it by 1. All right, so if the last question is, for example, of course, the last question is 9, all right, it has an index of 9, which we have created right here, last question. It was the first necessary variable that we created. So it is 9. So first off, the question index is going to have a value of 0, then this condition is going to run, which is true, and then this code is going to run. So when this code runs, inside this ID, we are going to pass in what? We are just going to pass in 0. So the ID of this entire thing is going to be 0. All right, and this is a div. So what we do here is we say that we want to find an element whose ID is the active question. And whenever we are talking about the first progress box, it means that we are talking about the first active question. Because if I come here, the active question by default has a value of 0. And then we increment that active question right here. We get the active question in here, which is 0. All right, and let's come down here. Where is the active question? Where else have we used it? So, last question, active question is going to be 0. We set the active question to be the index of the array items inside the questions. All right, so let's just highlight it and check for it. I'm just going to do this. And here is the active question dot correct answer. All right, and then we get the active question dot style dot background color green. All right, and we are going to do the same thing for answer is incorrect. Answer is incorrect. So let's call that function. Let's create the function answer is incorrect. And when the answer is incorrect, we simply change it back to red. Let's save it. Let's check it out. So if I click on this, this is red because, of course, 150 is incorrect. The correct is 100, and now it is red. It is green. So red, red, green, red, green, red, green. All right. Now there are a lot more things that are still remaining. All right, and we are going to do them in like one after the other. So, for example, whenever we click on either the correct answer or the incorrect answer, we want to go to the next question, and the next question is going to be a function that we have not created yet. So what I'm going to do is to be able for our active question to make even more sense, we are going to go to our next lecture, in which I'm going to create finally the next question function, which is going to sum everything to it is going to summarize everything that we have done so far. Well, not everything, like 95% of what we have done so far is put on the shoulders of the next question. See you guys in the next lecture.